Hi everyone, this is audap. Let's continue our game of Hermitage, Strange Case Files on Nintendo Switch. I think we're on death number 2 in our death loop here. What's going to happen on number 3? Who knows? Slowly but surely, he opens his eyes. This ceiling. It looks familiar, yet completely strange at the same time. What is this place? Is this heaven? After a short moment of doubt, he realizes how stupid that question actually sounds. How silly. Even if heaven and hell both existed, neither of them would look like this. Also, would there really be a place in heaven for someone this stubborn? That leaves only one conclusion. And once again, you're the last one to wake up. A large face hovers over Justin, grinning bitterly. It's Zack. It happened earlier than last time. No one got very far. So, right now it's morning again. Justin tries to get up, tossing aside the blanket that covers him. This whole thing seems like some sort of zombie game, you know? Only we're playing the zombies. No matter how often we're killed, we always come back. It doesn't sound that bad, does it? You could say it's an advantage. We can try over and over as many times as we like until we get it right. I guess. Thing is, are you sure we have infinite retries? Zack speaks quietly, a pessimistic undertone in his voice. Cecile couldn't handle it anymore. It's all become too much for her. Who knows which one of us is next? Wait a minute. What's that about Cecile? Justin looks around the room, only now noticing that Cecile is nowhere to be seen. Seeing my gruesome death must have gotten to her emotionally. Let's give her the time she needs and leave her alone for a while. She hadn't spoken a single word yet. I wonder if some of this was a mistake on Yasmin's part. Zack, I couldn't see too clearly at that moment. What happened to you that affected Cecile like that? Just do me a favor, and please don't make me remember it. I want to erase that from my memory. I was powerless, like a coward. I was kicked around, beaten, torn up. I don't want to relive any of that ever again. I understand. Sounds like hell. Enough about that. Let's just skip that topic. So, what about the parts I wasn't around to witness? What happened afterwards? After you died, those creatures came rushing through the door. They barged into the room like a shifting mass of putrid flesh. The shots bounced right off his back, and he took the shotgun from me. The others didn't manage to get very far. The flesh-like mass threw me onto a desk but I saw Dan strutting out of the room, out of the corner of my eye, carrying both Quinn and Liam's unconscious bodies. So you didn't manage to catch up to them? Hard to do that with a broken neck, buddy. My head was barely hanging on. Dan didn't bother with me at all after that. It was either his overblown confidence, or maybe he just didn't want to waste his time on me. I just lay there as I lost the feeling in my limbs little by little. That's when those things came to lick up my blood. My neck was broken, but I didn't have many open wounds, so there wasn't all that much of it. So they just left you there to die? No, they crushed they crushed the body, wrapped it around, stepped on it. They squeezed out every single drop of blood inside me. It didn't hurt, really. My whole body had turned numb at that point, but I could still see everything. I watched as they towered over me, squeezing my body so hard that my intestines burst. I wish I'd passed out a lot sooner. You're right. There's a limit to how often we can endure this. I'm sorry, Justin. What a mess. Let's be real. If we keep doing things the same way, we don't stand a chance against Dan, do we? We can't take him head on. It'll take more than a few simple tricks to traps to win this fight. Also, now we know for sure that those creatures are on his side. Yeah, one more piece of the puzzle that remains unexplained. It looks like no matter who stole the artifact, we can't get past Dan. If we don't come up with a solution, we won't even survive until the afternoon. Right, but what can we do now? Everywhere we go, he shows up with those creatures in tow and murders us. He's always one step ahead, ruining every plan we can come up with. I never thought he'd have this kind of power. There's no way we can take him on with that little arsenal of ours. He knows everything about our equipment. Our equipment doesn't seem to faze him one bit. My shotgun blast right into his back should have provoked some kind of reaction at least, even if they were non-lethal rounds. Instead, he didn't even bother turning around. And all that happened while Cecile's taser wires were still hanging off his body. Yeah, it's no use. The guy looked like he was enjoying a warm shower, not like he'd been electrocuted and shot at. I guess this is the end of the line for us. there is another way. Oh, Cecile, are you feeling better? Next time, just run away. Can you do that? Hey, you mean you want me to leave you guys alone? I can't have you fending him off by yourself. I know I'm no real match for him, but at least I can buy you some time, you know? Also. I said, can you do that? Yeah, got it. I can do that. Good. I've never seen her look so determined. Where did this sudden fighting spirit come from? Why are you asking me? She's right there. She's right here. Cecile, it sounds like you have a plan. Did you come up with something? Yes, I think there is a way to keep Dan from interfering. Really? How? By doing nothing. Look, Cecile, I'm sorry I didn't consider your feelings before. I apologize, but that's not a plan, It is. I gave it a lot of thought while I was alone. After he injured Zach, Dan seemed almost ecstatic. He said something very interesting at that point. Come on. I'm only picking up what's mine from those two lovebirds. Why is it so hard for you to stay out of this? They've been so wasteful of things they don't even understand. Although that thing only has a few fragments left, a complete recovery would make time travel child's play. It's the sole reason for my existence. If you tamper with it, I'll come back through time and kill you, over and over again. Accept that and stay away from me. 3 years ago, back when Liam and Quinn were still in junior high together, a strange illness broke out at their school. During their quarantine, both of them were exposed to a strange orb of light that drained them of their physical strength and made them collapse. An unordinary experience. You don't exactly run into strange orbs of light that drain you on a daily basis. No, judging by what Dan said, the two of them somehow absorbed a small part of his orb. That's right, and when we take that into consideration, their involvement begins to make sense. So, according to Dan, this orb, this light, somehow enables time travel. I hate to admit it, but I can't even say I'm surprised. He always seemed to be going by a script, knowing exactly what was going to happen as he toyed with us. Time travel, huh? So he borrowed some of its abilities, and as long as he isn't fully satisfied with the way things are, he can always come back to this point in time and confront us. Exactly. That's why it's possible for two Dans to be active here at the same time. Even though the body at this point in time has Zach's soul inside of it, the real Dan has no need to worry about that at all, if the time travel method on the other side doesn't rely on the same kind of mental replacements. Which means he came back with his body. But even so, is it really okay just to kill your past self? He didn't hesitate for a second. I don't even want to think about that. Something is seriously wrong with that guy's brain. I completely lost track. How many strange things have been happening now, and there's all this talk about bending time. My thoughts are all over the place. You're right. Forget my ramblings about time travel. After all we've seen, those creatures we faced, I'm a fool for even bothering with physics and logic. Justin lets out a frustrated sigh, while Cecile extends her hand towards him. I agree with you, but why do you want us to do nothing? I mean, what does doing nothing mean? I doubt a group sleepover at home will solve the problem. Well, I came up with my own little theories. Let me explain. Their ignorance tore apart the door, shattered it to pieces. It took 3 whole years to make it usable again. There won't be another 3 years if we fail this time. That's why I've come back here to make sure the plan comes to fruition, regardless of whether you or anyone else interferes. You understand now, don't you? During our last 2 attempts, we obviously caused some sort of disturbance, something that irritated him enough to come finish us off. So, you're saying if we die, everything is better than getting more involved in this whole mess at the school. He recognizes Zach and he remembers you. You've only known Dan for a short time. In other words, he knows we're not who we're supposed to be at this point in time. If you've experienced time travel yourself, it's probably not hard to understand what's going on. Even if we don't understand the principle, the fact that we travel in time is obvious. So, basically, as long as he keeps encountering and attacking us, he can keep things moving in the direction he wants them to. That means the only time he isn't around is when nothing unusual is happening, meaning things are going according to his expectations. That's it. I hope we can keep up the act. Feigning normalcy is our new approach. So, we're abandoning all of our previous plans? I'm starting to feel really useless all of a sudden. I think as long as we all trust our own judgment, we're doing the right thing here. But what happens after that? That's surely not the scenario that the voice that took over Yasmin wanted, right? And this time, he is actually Zach already, so can we really continue to feign normalcy? Yes, I have another idea. Cecile suddenly grabs Zach's shoulders. She raises her head slightly, her eyes overflowing with determination. The look on her face may seem real, but Justin's keen eyes can tell that it's forced. Cecile is merely trying to keep up morale. However, he doesn't say anything, as he doesn't want to undermine Cecile's plan. It's a big risk, but it's the only way that we'll stand a chance against Dan without having to worry about his terrible strength. This is where we'll have our big showdown with him. We'll see this mess through to the end. I'm sorry, I know this may be hard on you, but please, be strong. For us. None of us can do this alone. I'm asking a lot of you, Zach. Will you trust me? She's back to her old self, her hands clasped behind her back, shy and silent. Even though he can only guess what Cecile's plan is, a strange calm washes over him. Zach steps closer towards her, and the three of them form a circle. Justin repeats Zach's words in his mind. I'm with you. I'll follow you, until the end. He is convinced Zach will soon have to remind himself of those words. It's Wednesday. Ready or not, the school festival eventually went ahead as planned. Dan has his hand on the steering wheel, as absent-minded as always. He is concentrating on his breathing, having learned long ago that one's breathing is directly linked to the mind. This behavior is rubbing off on everyone else without him even realizing it. Neko looks as if she's had a lot on her mind. I know separating her from her tech gadgets makes her fidgety, but I still decide to take her along for the ride. Today's mission is quite risky, desperate even. Nobody at the school can know about it. That's why I took Neko with me. She'll be able to put her expertise to use and control the flow of information. Things that are overwhelming to me are child's play in her eyes. Apart from that, Yasmin needs someone close to her own age to keep her company. Scarlett and I don't have the time to spare, and Dan admitted himself that he would be the wrong man for the job. Scarlett stays very quiet throughout the trip. I can understand that, since she is under a lot of pressure. The success of this plan depends on her acting skills, and if she slips up even once, it would have dire consequences. The only person actively moving around this trip is Yasmin. She's constantly turning left and right, staring out of the window with the innocent, curious look of a fascinated child during a road trip. Her joyous hummings is somewhat drowned out by the oppressive atmosphere in the car. Someone once told me that time isn't always appreciated in the same way. A gambler's most enjoyable moment are the 3 seconds before the cards are lifted. Only a few thousand milliseconds are etched into the nerves. Until then, sweat and fear are just bitter spices that make the meal more delicious in the end. Whoever told me that back in the day was right, and I can't think of any better way to describe my current feelings. Just let me have one little break, okay? There are 2 kids in the car. Can't you behave yourself? Jeez, you're already so stressed out even though things haven't even started yet. I don't care. It's fine by me. Just open the window. I shouldn't. We have to consider Yasmin too. Hey, the air conditioning is on. As soon as you open the window, it's all over. Dan's reaction is slow, misses the point, and most of all, isn't funny. Everyone in the car ignores his comment. So, do you really want to take that gamble today? Whether it works or not, I don't think the principal would be pleased. As the saying goes, it's better to ask for forgiveness than for permission. I try to keep my expression calm. Although we exchanged information and distributed tasks last night, I withheld a couple of things. Yesterday evening, another person the client sent to help didn't turn up. I waited at the meeting place for a long time, but eventually gave up. I haven't actually met this person, but I heard that he is a highly experienced foreign scholar. In our line of work, the more you know, the less danger you're in. I have worked multiple cases and experienced quite a few things, but I would never claim my knowledge to be sufficient enough to handle things on my own. Having another expert at my side would have helped a great deal, especially since it's clear that we're dealing with supernatural entities here. His sudden disappearance makes me wonder if we'll be able to pull off this mission successfully without his help. Did he stumble upon something that put him in danger? None of these thoughts are pleasant, so I try not to dwell on it too much. I have to adapt to the situation. I think everything through again, then address the others to reconfirm our course of action. You're right, today will be a gamble. Don't forget that gambling requires great skill and preparation. I know that the stakes are high and we are taking risks, but don't think I plan on simply sending you off to die. That reeks of confidence. Not. Count me out. Same here. Oh, come on. I'm doing my best, so don't tease me like that. Anyway, remember yesterday's task distribution? Preparing a trap to catch the criminal, which, by the way, is a crime in itself. It is indeed a crime. Furthermore, if we mess this up, it could backfire, and we could end up involuntarily helping the criminal. Judging by the damage to the exhibition hall, it appears that the perpetrators desperately sabotaged important equipment and removed the artifact with almost surgical precision. Regardless of their goal, they seem to have considerable planning skills. Scarlett's assessment is that while the perpetrators were able to escape by unimaginable means, their perceptual abilities seem to be similar to humans, since they were surprised when the door opened. If we find a way to create an utterly unexpected situation, we may be able to settle this whole thing before they can escape. To do so, we need a sufficiently attractive trap. It's not like we're bending the law for the first time. Anyway, Dan and I will stay in the exhibition hall, and you, Neko, will be the one to cut the power. Even with people around, I should be able to sneak in and disable the power. But yesterday you mentioned that their backup generator will kick in pretty quickly, right? That's why you need to turn off that as well. In a way, that means it cannot be fixed again. If anyone can figure that out, it's you. Well, it won't be easy. I'll be in charge of luring the guards out of here, which should be fine if Dan can take care of them outside. I'll try to knock out the strongest one first. Can't have them making any noise that it could attract attention. Come back as soon as you're done. After an urgent negotiation with the principal under false pretenses, he agreed to leave some riot gear for us, which we left in the guard's office for us to pick up. Due to the fact that the school has employed security personnel for this occasion, they have rather professional equipment on offer. Tasers, batons, and riot shields, and even a Remington shotgun with paint bullets. Honestly, I would have preferred to have a proper weapon with live ammunition for Dan, but I couldn't have explained the entire plan to the school. Using the paint to trace and locate the hidden exhibits is the most important part of the operation, and the whole process doesn't seem that dangerous. As things stand, I can only hope that the culprit is indeed as jumpy as the students say. The large footprints and trail of destruction makes me dread going toe-to-toe. Nobody has the time to worry about the potholes on the tennis court. Even if it definitely isn't a simple crater, there aren't enough clues to provide anything right now, and we need this operation to be a success to get permission from the school to check it out in further detail. Aren't you coming to see me perform? Yasmin probably doesn't understand what we're talking about. She looks up, frustrated. When the operation begins, the little girl will be performing in the auditorium on the other side of the school, which would be the safest place to be at the time. Don't worry, Yasmin. The grown-ups are busy, but Neko will come play with you once she's finished with her chores. I pat Yasmin's head, which seems to make her feel better. It'll be enough to give Neko an alibi. Taking advantage of a child like this makes me feel guilty, but at the end of the day, Neko is also a child who needs to be protected. Anyway, if the operation goes well, we'll have to pretend the accident came as a complete surprise. All that's left is to pray that Dan succeeds and that the paint will work as intended. It's amazing how you're relying on modern technology, Manager. You've really changed. I'm just making the best of the situation. We didn't have enough time to find any spells or ritualistic signs, meaning our only alternative is an old-fashioned hunt. The question is, who's hunting who? I'm surprised you were able to talk to Quinn so confidently yesterday. I think there's much more to it than her just being there to help. Confidence is key, or else we'd be doing this empty-handed right now. One shouldn't have the heart to harm others, but must be vigilant so as not to be harmed. That's how that one goes, right? You might have misunderstood something there. Forget it. We'll talk about it later. Before we know it, the school gates appear in front of us. Time to do this. Be prepared. If things go according to plan, we probably won't get any sleep tonight. Manager, what did you just say? If things go according to plan, we probably won't get any sleep tonight. What the hell? Something is seriously wrong. Neko and I are taking in the history building, which is brimming with people and 100 times more crowded than yesterday. I got 2 more here. Go, go! What's the situation in there? Is the stretcher big enough? Arrange for the evacuees to get to the quarantine zone ASAP. What if we get infected ourselves? We're not even sure about the symptoms, so what's the point of worrying about it? Wait, that looks too heavy for you to lift. I'll take care of that. Go! Okay, I'll leave it in your hands. What's going on here? This unexpected turn of events makes me sigh and shake my head. This looks like a movie set. What have we gotten ourselves into this time? I understand what she must be feeling. I myself have never seen such a scene in real life. Police and doctors alike are swarming all over the place, cordoning off one area after the other. The biting smell of disinfectant wanders up my nose. A white tanker truck is parked outside a window at the far back. Someone is rolling the hose back up after having just sprayed everything with it. Many people in formal attire are bunched up together in clusters, some of them lying motionless on stretchers, some of them sitting in the shade, their faces wider than the wall behind them. These visitors came all the way just to see the exhibition. Seeing the state they're in now makes me sad. As is always the case, not everyone is understanding of the situation. From time to time, angry shouts can be heard, and people on both sides of the blockade are engaging in heated arguments with the personnel. Please, what's going to happen to us? Have the doctor said anything yet? I don't have any more information in that regard, I'm afraid. But don't worry, technology these days is so advanced, I'm sure they'll figure it out. Let go of me! You think I can't tell what you're really thinking? You're lying. Please calm down, sir. It's too dangerous for you to just walk in there right now. Cut the crap and get out of my way. My wife is still in there. Hey, get back here. Stop him. We have a plane to catch tonight. It's important business. If we miss the flight, we'll lose millions. Who will be held accountable for that? Sorry, sir. I'm sure once this is over, the institution in charge of such matters will clear things up for you. Right now, please remain calm and wait outside the venue. I don't like the sound of that. Are you aware that I'm worth more than this whole building? The smug businessman won't stop complaining, completely oblivious to the increasing number of people suffering all around him. Neko pokes me in the back and throws a questioning look at me. I don't want to show up too early. Having said that, it doesn't make sense to wait for something to happen. I scratch my head, thinking and deciding to make a move. However, someone else is quicker than me. The artifacts that are on display here are centuries old, and they are probably worth twice as much as you. Be quiet and stop bragging. Also, if this turns out to be contagious, do you think the consequences of even one person getting out will ever be measured in money? Stop pretending that your petty problems matter right now. You would do well to listen to experts who are far more knowledgeable in this field than you will ever be. Right, I apologize. The healthcare worker seems accustomed to situations of this magnitude, and his precise gestures and uncompromising tone exude authority. Despite handling the situation very well, the man looks incredibly tired. It's pretty hot outside, and I can't imagine what it must be like working under such stressful conditions in an outfit like his. I don't want to get on his nerves or irritate him in any way, so I straighten my shirt and leave Neko on her own for now. I make my way towards the man with a concerned look on my face. I'm sorry, I can't imagine how hard it must be having to work with this kind of weather. You always have to be ready. These things don't operate on a fixed schedule. And you are? The principal called me. He ordered me back here, and there was a big problem. I'm sorry to bother you, but I was hoping you may know more about it. I expected some sort of robbery or other disturbance, but nothing quite like this. People shouldn't be anywhere near this building right now. Is it really that serious? Listen, if you're the person in charge of this building, I'm afraid there isn't more I can say. I'm sorry, this is just the reality of things at the moment. I smile somewhat bitterly and take another step towards him. So, say, you really can't tell me what's going on here? I need to know, even if it gets me into trouble later. Talking to him in secret has obviously had an effect on him. He doesn't seem to care much about who I actually am and looks back at the crowd behind him while tugging at his clothes. Once this is contained, we'll send more details over the school in a report, but as you can see, we have an outbreak on our hands. An outbreak? What are we talking about here? A virus? Germs? We don't know yet, and the current conditions won't allow us to do a detailed analysis on the spot. So far, the patient's symptoms have been very strange. They aren't following the characteristic pattern of a normal outbreak. In what way would you say the symptoms are strange? Just look at those people. Some of them are showing onsets of fever, while others are suffering from a low body temperature. They're sweating profusely and their limbs are weak. It's as if they were extremely physically exhausted and their bodies were shutting down due to fatigue. Color. Yet there are no signs of inflammation or any serious impairment of other psychological functions. It is completely different from a body's usual response to stress factors. So it's as if they don't have any actual sickness at all. They seem to have been drained of all their energy, which is a strange thing to say for someone like me, a man of science. But all of them are showing severe signs of exhaustion. If we use the concept of Chinese medicine as a metaphor, I'd describe it as their qi having been taken away. However, so many people were infected at the same time, but the security guards who initially came into contact with them are just fine, as are the people they were in contact with before the quarantine. The symptoms are developing at a rapid pace, yet the method of transmission remains unknown. It can't be the air, or else we would have an even bigger crisis on our hands right now. It's also unlikely that it is transferred through touch. Even if that were the case, it would have never spread this fast. Collective hypnosis, maybe? No, that's too... He is lost in his own thoughts. His expression reminds me of an old teacher of mine who always started biting his nails when dates and numbers regarding ancient cultural relics didn't add up. Today's events must be enough to leave him completely puzzled, even as a seasoned professional. I can relate. I point at the crowd on the other side of the blockade. I'm sorry, but would it be possible for me to ask them a couple of questions? Even if it's not airborne, it's too dangerous. I can't just let you walk into a quarantined area. The doctor gives me a look that tells me he's just doing his job. I pull up my phone and hand it to him. Oh, I'm fully aware of that. Please let them use this phone to talk to me. Electromagnetic waves will not spread disease. I like your way of thinking. He raises an eyebrow, clearly relieved that I've made things easy for him. Well, looks like I can be of some help to you after all. Hey, Neko, lend me your phone. Wow, what a great idea. Not. Did you even think this through? You have to get it back afterwards. What if this thing is contagious? What I've gathered, I highly doubt that's how it spreads. We have a full-blown outbreak on our hands. Can you believe it? I pat Neko's head as she looks at me with wide eyes. The symptoms are the same ones Quinn mentioned yesterday. Something is going on. Way too many people are coming down with it at the same time. You say that as if things were normal at some point. They definitely never were, by any standard. Well, why else would they have called us in? That's what we're here for. Don't worry, you'll get it back right after. I take Neko's phone and dial my own number. Hello, are you the guy who wanted to ask us some questions? The nervous voice on the other end of the line is that of a young man. It is most likely the same young man who kept inquiring about what was going to happen to him earlier. I speak to him as calmly and politely as I can. Yes, that's me. I would have preferred to talk to you face to face, but I'm afraid the doctors can't allow that at the moment. It's fine. This is a difficult time for everyone. The doctors already have it hard enough as it is. If I can be of any help, please let me know. Thank you for being so understanding. I'll try to keep it short. Time is of the essence, and the scale of the situation surpasses all our expectations. We have to understand what's going on as soon as possible. With that in mind, what should I ask him? Ask about what happened. Excuse me, but I have to ask, what exactly happened here? Was something unusual going on before people started showing symptoms? Something unusual describes it quite well, actually. There was a sudden power outage just a few moments ago. A power outage? The electricity seems to be working fine right now. Yes, the blackout didn't last long. We were taking a guided tour through the exhibition hall when everything turned dark all of a sudden. If I had to guess, I'd say the outage lasted around 30 to 40 seconds. How peculiar. It may sound like a small detail at first, something that could have happened at any time, but taking into account Neko's description of how the school's power network works, it seems strange that it recovered from the outage on its own. Maybe problems with the internal circuitry don't affect the external system. That would be a direct contradiction to what we discovered yesterday. It would mean that the backup power supply is a lot more responsive than we originally thought. Regardless, I can confirm that another unplanned power outage took place here. I make a mental note of that and urge the young man on the phone to continue. And after the power went out, did anything strange happen then? At first, everyone was a little alarmed, but since we're all adults, nobody panicked or made a big fuss about it. Security told everyone to prepare for an orderly evacuation, so we were getting ready to walk towards the exit. But then someone, I obviously couldn't see who, shouted, "There's something in here." They sounded extremely scared. That got everybody's attention. Did you happen to see what that something was by any chance? I can't quite describe it. It wasn't an actual thing in the physical sense, but I'll try. There was a multicolored ball of light floating above the largest display case in the center of the room. Ball might be the wrong way to describe it. It didn't have a clear fixed shape and it was constantly shifting, but it was still a three-dimensional object. It looked like one of those holograms you see in sci-fi movies all the time. Did its appearance remind you of anything? I mean, did it look like an object or an animal? No, there isn't a living thing on this earth with a shape like that. How can I put this? Its surface changed constantly, like a palette of mixed pigments with colors I've never seen before that I couldn't put a name on even if I wanted to. The colors changed at irregular intervals. The colors weren't floating around on its surface in a certain pattern. Wherever the color spread, it was where the shape went. It moved pretty erratically. Nobody in that hall could tell what it was. Even the security guards looked absolutely baffled, but it was just floating there for a few seconds. And it didn't react to you either? No, that is, until someone used their cell phone to shine a light on it. There was a little burst of light that was so bright I was afraid I'd go blind. The light was so bright and hot, it felt as if the hairs on my skin were being scorched even though I was standing a fair distance away from it. Everyone in the room was affected. When the lights came back on about 10 seconds later, people were gasping for air, and many were already lying on the ground, too weak to get up. So that's what happened. I'll write that down. That's not how he's feeling. Since you're being quarantined, may I take the liberty of asking if you're also experiencing any symptoms? Yes, I am. I barely have enough energy to talk to you while I'm sitting here, and if I try to stand up, I get dizzy immediately. I already collapsed multiple times when I tried. Could you describe your symptoms in as detailed a fashion as possible? Though I'm not a doctor myself, there are some experts I would like to consult. Well, I can tell you the same thing I told the doctor. It's this overwhelming feeling of exhaustion. I can't think of any other way to describe it. Imagine having to run 2 marathons in a row with someone forcing you to hold your breath. That's... wow. Well, I think that's beyond anything anyone could imagine. Tired, thirsty, dizzy, weak. That about sums it up. But others have it even worse than me. Strangely enough, the doctor said my body isn't showing any physical signs of strain or dehydration. As a matter of fact, I nearly threw up when I tried to drink the water they gave me. I couldn't swallow a single sip of it. Would you say a lot of these symptoms could simply be in your head? Your mind playing tricks on you? I can tell you this much, the overall fatigue is definitely real. Maybe everything else is just my body's way of reacting to it. There are indeed cases where high fevers are of mental rather than physical origin, but I'm in no position to make any type of diagnosis. That's okay, I understand. Oh, and something else struck me as strange. I don't know if it's just me, though. What is it? Please go ahead. My hair seems to have grown. Your hair? Yes, it seems to have grown by at least a centimeter all of a sudden. I only just recently had a haircut. It isn't possible for it to have grown so much in such a short period of time. Speaking of hair, I noticed some of the women's braided hairstyles suddenly looked somewhat loose. Maybe the same thing happened to them? That's a very interesting observation. I'll keep that in mind. Asked about the reason his visit to the museum. If I may ask, why visit the history building at this time of day? The event in the auditorium should be starting soon. Well, I will have to be blunt about this. All the singing, dancing, and speeches are simply nowhere near as interesting as the collections on display at the museum. So, you specialize in historical research, which is somewhat related to archaeology. That's why I'm interested. Looks like the museum really is of value to you then. Seeing ancient historical relics on display is a humbling experience. Though the great general public may not recognize their importance, people like you and me know how much appreciation these objects deserve. A few others who came here shared my fascination, but some just randomly decided to drop by. It is, after all, one of the regular stops during the school festival. I'm sorry your genuine interest and appreciation of these relics ended up in such a mess. Don't worry about it, but one more thing. The Meridian Bronze Bell and the Reed Compendium weren't on display. Is there any particular reason for that? Well, you see, the school's power network has been acting up lately, so our storage conditions weren't up to the usual standard. Because of this unfortunate turn of events, we have temporarily arranged for a specialist to store them in a more secure location. I see. It's probably better that way, though I have to say it makes me sad to have missed such an opportunity. I'm sorry your visit turned out this way. I really am. You don't need to apologize. Wanting to see them may even be considered selfish on my part. Displaying them like that always comes with the risk of damage, something I could never condone as a passionate practitioner in this field of work. Thank you for being so understanding. Now, there is something else I'd like to ask of you. Ask if he's been at the school for a while. Oh. Did you come here specifically for the festival? Maybe with friends? I only just got here today. I heard that some of my old classmates arrived here a couple of days earlier to help set things up. I'm ashamed to say it, but physical labor is not one of my strong suits. I prefer reading. A few students from the class came, but none of them were here with me. I didn't see any of them in the quarantine area. Maybe they were watching the ceremony over at the auditorium. How does it look on your side? Anyone you recognize? Well, I saw a few faces that I faintly recognized from classes and seminars way back, but there are people from all walks of life here, really. I have to ask, why would that be important? I just wanted to check if this could be connected to some other things that have been happening at the school lately. I'm afraid I can't be much help in that regard. Just 2 days ago, I was still doing research in another city. I barely managed to make it here in time for the festival, so I don't really have a good overview of what's going on and who's where. I see. I could just be overthinking this. Never mind. Let's see what else there is. Well, that was everything I wanted to ask. Thank you very much for your time. You've been a great help. Take care. Oh, hell. What's going on? Any luck? They have the same symptoms as the janitor Quinn told us about. At the time the symptoms started, a strange floating glowing object was in the room. It could be the direct cause. And none of the artifacts are missing? I haven't heard anything about that yet. Since I'm pretending to be in charge, the doctor naturally wouldn't tell me. He assumes I already know about it. So? Huh? Something on your mind? No, it's nothing. There's no way we can continue as planned under these circumstances. I'll call Dan and let him know what's going on. Nicho's phone suddenly starts ringing. I look down and see the caller ID. It's Scarlett. I'll take that. Okay. Oh, wait a minute. She seems to suddenly remember something and looks at me nervously. Whatever it is, I already have the phone in my hand and answer the call. What's up? Justin, get over here quickly. There's... Wait, store manager? Yeah, it's me. We've got some problems over on our side. Don't worry, I'm with Neko. She's right next to me. What? You know what? Never mind. By the way, what's this about a Justin? I don't have time to explain this to you right now. Get to the library, quickly. It's urgent. The library? Does it have something to do with Yasmin? I don't know how else to say this. Yasmin is missing. What? Neko and I arrive at the library. A huge crowd of people is standing outside. There are more police officers here right now than I have seen combined over the last 10 years. The area is cordoned off, and they are setting up a blockade that looks like a little different from the one over at the history building. Inaudible conversations over buzzing walkie-talkie devices and intercoms can be heard all around us. From time to time, a bright light flashes before my eyes, and a horrible thought crosses my mind. Could it be Yasmin has... No, I don't think so. Scarlett steps closer as I mumble to myself. Dan doesn't seem to be with her. Maybe he was unable to make it in time. Did you two sprint over here? You're covered in sweat. I would have flown here if I could, given how serious you sounded on the phone. So what's with all the police? Does this have anything to do with Yasmin? Well, it's too early to tell. They're examining the body right now. The victim is a security guard who was employed by the school. Someone found him in the back of the building after a short power outage at the auditorium. He was discovered when the staff went to check the fuse box. We can't ask anybody around here about Yasmin's whereabouts. It's too chaotic at the moment. So Yasmin disappeared during the blackout. To be honest, I'm not sure. I haven't been here long. I got here just before you did. When I heard that there had been a death at the auditorium, I rushed here as quickly as I could to meet Yasmin, but I couldn't find her anywhere. So she could have already been in danger before all this happened. Right around the time of her performance, too. I told her to stay in the auditorium and prepare for her performance. She's such a good kid. She would never just run off like that. So far, we don't know if anyone in her vicinity saw anything. I'll go over there and check things out. I hope it has nothing to do with, you know. Me too, but we won't know for sure until I've asked around. What would you like to know? Well, I was going to check out the scene myself. Maybe some clues have been overlooked. It's hard to be sure of things without checking them out yourself. Principal, I must say, you're really good at scaring people. You were simply lost in thought. Now, not that that's a bad thing, of course. I'd say it's quite an important trait for a man in your field of work. I'm afraid I cannot grant your wish. The police are quite meticulous in their work, so much that even I was given the cold shoulder and prohibited from entering. Is security really that tight? I assume they have their reasons. It's a chaotic scene, and they are still in the dark about how it all escalated so quickly. Well, they're actually putting up a wall of officers. I've only seen that during riots. So, when do police react in such an extreme way? Neko peeks through the crowd, turning left and right in the hopes of finding a gap. She zooms in on the scene with her phone's camera. Please pay a little more attention. A child should not experience this kind of scene. It is a burden I would like to spare my conscience from carrying. Don't worry about me. I'm here to help, not to be a burden. There's no need to worry. As I mentioned yesterday, she's an expert. Give her some credit. He casts an apologetic look at Neko. The man, being the principal of such a formal school, probably isn't used to kids as precocious as her. Neko seems more motivated than usual. She's a lot less rude. Something clearly audible in her tone of voice. It's not like her to pay this much attention to anything outside her area of expertise. I'm sorry, come to think of it, how silly of me to tell you to stop when I'm the one who hired you. If more than one crime has been committed, we need to reconsider our whole strategy. We were hoping to gather more information here. I'm responsible for all my companions and their well-being, after all. If I let them face a murder unprepared, that makes me no better than a common criminal. Wouldn't you agree? I most certainly would, and of course I'd like to hear your opinion on these events as well. I'd better introduce you to the officer in charge. He can legally permit your help as an outside civilian. The principal throws me a look before squeezing past the people around us and disappearing into the crowd. I'll go check the auditorium with Scarlet while you get an overview of everything here. If you get the chance, sneak to the area where Yasmin was preparing. With a show of this size, it should be easy to find the backstage area and the dressing rooms. Neko gives me a thumbs up, her back already turned to me, and walks away alongside Scarlet. Shortly after, the principal returns. At his side is a stern-looking, well-armed man. Let me introduce you to the expert we've hired. We are lucky to have him here for the festival. Sir? Maybe it's due to the exhaustion of having to carry around his heavy equipment all day, but he doesn't even attempt being polite. He simply nods in my direction. It must be difficult to get any work done with all these onlookers constantly pointing fingers. I know the feeling. You're right. I appreciate your offer to help. We can always use skilled people, since the situation is obviously quite overwhelming. I don't want to take up any more of your precious time, then. Let me keep this short. Why are the security measures so tight? It seems a little excessive. We want to avoid any rumors from spreading. If details about the scene of the crime got out, that would definitely cause a lot of gossip. So the potential rumors are so bad that it justifies this kind of manpower? It must be really bad. Officer, if you have the time, could you show him around the crime scene? He is very reliable and can be trusted not to leak any information. His knowledge could prove very useful. The officer raises an eyebrow and looks at me. I can't help but feel like I'm under extreme scrutiny. I try my best to look confident as he gives me the once-over, trying to show him that I'm an open book and have nothing to hide. Well, you're the one vouching for him. Well, you're the one vouching for him, Principal? He takes a look around to make sure none of the bystanders are watching. Sorry, I gotta pet the cat. There, I can't quite get comfortable. He takes a look around to make sure none of the bystanders are watching. Then he shows me pictures of the crime scene on his camera. I understand his worries a lot better now. This is absolutely no picture to be released to the public. The photo shows a man lying on the ground, or rather a hideous mass of flesh shaped like a man. The man appears to be naked, and his skin is a shade of blue. His insides and muscles are nearly indistinguishable from one another, as if melded together. It looks as if he was crushed in a car accident, but with a lot less blood and guts strewn about. Although the body must be relatively fresh, the blood beneath has already spread out quite a bit. Seeing this instantly reminds me of something else we came across during our investigation. It looks just like what happened to those cats and dogs. Cats and dogs? Never mind, I was just thinking out loud. Well, the body does bear similarities to a dog or cat that was run over in a traffic accident, if that's what you were implying. Though in this instance, it would have taken an 18-wheeler to flatten it like that. He's probably talking about those gigantic American trucks that would eat up fuel and electricity like there's no tomorrow. If one of those had been making its rounds on the campus, the whole place would have looked like a Transformers movie set. I would have heard about it by now, so common sense dictates that cause of death it wasn't a humongous truck. Something else is going on here. I look at the photo more carefully. Follow the trail of blood. The blood is dark red and has dried somewhat. Some of it is still sticking to the horrifically bent limbs. There are strange marks around its edges. It is faintly blurred around that area, in dire contrast to a totally dark area where it's forming a cluster. Squeezing blood from a human body wouldn't leave such clean spray marks. No. It is a messy sight, but there are still some details that still catch my attention. Several circular bloodstains are scattered beyond, and splattered pools of blood vaguely lined up in a straight path. The blood splatters vary in size, the largest being about the size of a textbook, while the smallest one is the size of a thumb. The further away the body they are, the smaller they become, and after a 2-meter radius, they slowly fade away and disappear. There's one thing I can say with absolute certainty: those are not human footprints. Where does the trail lead? Northeast, around the warehouse, and up the mountains behind the school. We've sent people there already and found no similar footprints or further traces of blood. There's a high wire fence there that should be difficult to climb over. Yes, and there was nothing there indicating anyone was ever there. It's as if the killer just vanished. Damn. And there's no surveillance footage of any kind. No, or else we would be digging through the dirt. Or else we wouldn't be digging through the dirt like primitives looking for traces right now. The security footage in the control room is completely garbled for some reason. I see. One more thing to be concerned about. So far, the signs point towards the electromagnetic interference, but we will have to wait for our technicians to finish their analysis for a real answer. I understand. Status of the victim. As stated initially, the victim's body looks like it's been squashed under extreme pressure. Needless to say, the body is bizarrely deformed. Skin facing the ground looks flayed as if the concrete floor rubbed it open like sandpaper. There is something else that isn't quite right about the victim's body. I lean in to take a closer look and finally realize what's been bugging me all along. With the head twisted like that, the spine must be broken, right? The pressure from the back of the neck that forces it forward is what eventually causes it to break. This has been observed at archaeological sites from time to time. Unfortunate people from all eras who had an accident during a construction or were caught in natural disasters such as landslides often end up with broken spines. Yes, it's twisted and broken in a few places, but I think the photo makes that pretty obvious. What a sorry state that body is in. Looks like the poor guy will have quite a difficult trip to the morgue. Say, is it definitely clear that the deceased is a campus security guard? It's kind of hard to tell with the skull flattened like that and the whole face reduced to a pulp. He had a tattoo on his back that helped us identify him. He was a former prisoner who was being reintegrated into society. He took this job very seriously and had his heart in the right place from what I've heard. What a cruel fate. According to his work schedule, this place was indeed part of his patrol route for today. Still, the location he was found at is remote, and we have no idea why he would be walking around behind the auditorium. Maybe he stumbled upon something before he was killed. Hard to say. We definitely need to investigate further before we jump to any conclusions. I agree. Scratch marks on the floor. How about this? It looks a bit like... I point to the ground in the photo. There are heavy marks, almost forming a dent of sorts. A small sign with a number on it is placed next to it. The marks like that couldn't ordinarily be left on a concrete floor. Whoever made them would either have to possess inhuman strength or an incredible set of teeth. It seems almost impossible that a fight that caused such destruction could have taken place without anyone noticing anything. We interviewed the people on patrol duty today. Nobody saw anyone carrying heavy tools or anything else that could have been used as a weapon. And the janitor in charge of maintenance had no idea about the marks. Since the auditorium is often used by off-campus personnel, these checks are done diligently and on a regular basis. Everything is checked thoroughly on a weekly basis. Something of this size wouldn't have been missed. So, all signs point to this damage being recent. Exactly. I'm curious as to what could have caused it. The velocity needed to cause such damage is insanely high. There are no cracks or signs of corrosion around it. This precision makes me think we aren't dealing with mindless destruction. I doubt whoever did it brought a pickaxe along. Are there any eyewitness accounts? Sometime before the incident, a witness saw him and another person enter that room looking very nervous. However, we have yet to find anyone matching the description. That's why we need to seal off the school campus to keep the culprit from slipping away. And that would explain why everything is blocked off so tightly. Okay, let me have a closer look at something else. Notebook by the body. That's... A notebook was found next to the body. We are asking his colleagues to take a look at it, and they have confirmed that it is not his handwriting. And its contents are... Well, my personal theory is that he must have acquired the notebook from somewhere else and then accidentally dropped it during whatever mess he got caught up in. So it couldn't have belonged to him. While handwriting can be altered on purpose, the deceased's normal behavior leading up to his death makes me doubt he was this crazy. That sounds ominous. What exactly was written in there? Is it that bad? We've already bagged it and taken it into evidence, so I'm afraid there's no way for you to have a look at it. However, it only had a few pages, and we took photos of them. He looks for another picture on his camera and shows me the photographed images. The writing isn't so much made of words as it is of weird assortments of scribbled filthy stains, or granting me a glimpse into the shattered psyche of whoever wrote it. The longer I look at it, the more clearly I can see the actual words were written down here, and I'm not dealing with crazy occult symbols for once. So, it's a diary? The author didn't deliberately keep track of time, but it looks like these are notes on various events, not necessarily in chronological order. Whoever wrote it seems particularly fond of talking to themselves. More words are crossed out than are readable. I grabbed the camera to get a closer look and carefully read every bit of it, or every bit by bit. Everything is sunny and clear, nothing unusual. No rain the whole day, and it's hotter than expected. The infiltration plan worked well. He was easier to talk to than I thought he would be, and I traded some groceries for the key to the side door. As long as I carry around my drawing board and paint, students won't suspect me. Remember, don't be afraid to strike up conversation. They're just as curious as to what this artist is up to. However, there's a real punk of a student who's not easy to deal with, so stay away from him if possible. He looks like this. Don't forget. Sunny, nothing unusual. Not much rain here in the south this time of year. That's bad news. I haven't had any luck lately. That guy didn't go behind my back, did he? I knew this was going to get me in trouble. I don't know what drove me to trust him in the first place. Maybe he was just trying to bluff me into a high asking price. But since we've come this far, let's just stay a few more days. It's not like there's anywhere else to go. Remember, there's nothing on the south side. I've checked there 3 times already. Cloudy, nothing unusual. It looked like it was going to rain, but the rain never came. How frustrating. Students say they saw something strange moving around, and dead animals have been found horribly disfigured. No flesh was eaten, but the blood was sucked from them. It fits the profile. Chances are high that they are around. I didn't expect their presence to the schools. Or I didn't explain their presence to the students. Oh my god, no flesh was eaten, but the blood was sucked from them. If it's the profile, chances are high that they are around. I didn't explain their presence to the students. What happens to them and whether they live or die isn't important. I should have stayed longer. I need to see it with my own eyes before jumping to conclusions. Cloudy. There was a heavy downpour yesterday, and today the air is exactly as documented in the article. I have to remember this. I think I know where they are going. There have been animal carcasses near the warehouse on the north side. I heard them there today. The article's description of the sound they make was wrong. It isn't a grunt. I heard a strange clicking noise instead. A deep, penetrating sound. They must have exceptional lung capacity. I didn't have the guts. God knows how dangerous encountering them face to face would be. I wanted to, but it sounded like it was fighting something. There was no chance to get any closer. The sounds coming from there were so strange. It was like bloody meat being slapped around, tissue being torn apart, and I heard strange words being chanted, but none of what I heard made any sense to me. The fighting continued for a while, and then a soft buzzing sound came from the mountains to the north. Immediately after that sound, all movement stopped. It was like a referee had blown his whistle. They're not taking orders from someone, are they? No, that's not possible. Nothing of that nature was ever mentioned in the article. I'll remember this and go back to confirm my theories. I really can't... Uh-oh, what? I really can't believe it. They may have intelligence, but not to this degree. Nothing is right. Nothing is as it should be. How long has it been since I heard them moving? 3 days? 5 days? Wasn't this supposed to be a success? Things weren't supposed to be this way. They should still be here, somewhere. I purposely led them stray cats into... I personally led some stray cats into the school, and it wasn't before long that they all ended up dead. But I never could see them. They only hunt their prey when I'm not looking. Is it really necessary to use bait? The article mentions that they have their own twisted preferences, but what is it about this school that draws them to it? I need to remember this, whatever I can think of. I need to remember all of it. They are fighting something. I need to keep my eyes on their enemies. What a genius idea. I have to remember this. It looks like it's easy to attract those things, albeit dangerous, but I won't get anywhere without taking any risks. Listen closely. I need to check out the cottage. Alright, why don't we stop it there? This is Audapostrophe. You've been watching Hermitage, Strange Case Files on Nintendo Switch. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed watching. I will see you at the next stream.